He really does think he lives in his own world with his own rules, doesn't he? Well, I fear the cold, hard facts might be about to catch up with Harry, the Prince of Hypocrisy.
That was GB News presenter and Mail Online columnist Dan Wootton talking about Prince Harry. But according to a new exposé, Wootton could have been describing himself. Byline Times reports that Wootton is alleged to have used fake online identities to trick and bribe men into sending him compromising images. Wootton is openly gay, and according to the report, between 2008 and 2018, he created a fictional show business alter ego called Martin Branning. He would then contact men as Martin Branning, offering them up to £30,000, quote, tax-free, for naked photos. One alleged victim, a married father, told Byline Times that Branning had offered him £10,000 to, quote, pose nude, saying that it felt like, quote, blackmail and entrapment. The article reports this from a second alleged victim. A second victim told Byline Times that Branning had sent him messages from untraceable numbers day and night, offering sums up to £30,000 in return for sexually compromising pictures and quote that sort of thing. This victim said he had uncovered a pattern of men who had worked with Wootton being harassed with unsolicited malicious communications. Very legal language there. It was all pretty much always the same thing. £20,000 to £30,000 for naked photos. Aren't you intrigued about who I am? This sort of stuff, right? He said, adding that it was driving him, quote, insane, and ultimately provoked him to go to the police, who sent a detective to his home to take a statement in 2019. Martin Branning isn't the only alter ego that New Zealander Wootton is alleged to have used. Another alleged victim told Byline Times this: I received a friend request from a girl called Maria Joseph. Immediately, she was very flirty, and having just come out of a messy breakup, I didn't have my wits about me as much as I should. She soon started to send me semi-nude pics and swapped to email and phone. Her number was a New Zealand number, as she said she'd just come back from a year over there. As more pics came through, she started to request them from me, which I duly obliged. Fortunately, I kept my face out of. Then she started to send ones she'd already sent, which she brushed off with, quote, obviously I'm talking to a few guys at the same time. At this point, I'm being super careful and start to snoop further into her profile. Catfishing wasn't really a known thing back then, but I knew something was up. We had 5 friends in common on Facebook, Dan, plus 4 others. When I clicked the others, the only common link was Dan. This is Dan Wootton. Then a video came through of her having sex with a man. However, I recognized him as someone from a reality TV show, as he's a friend of a friend. This made me realize I knew the identity of the girl and that it could not be legitimate. So with this, the NZ, New Zealand number, the sole common denominator, I was sure it was him. So I messaged Maria to say, hi Dan, interesting way to get dick pics. The next day, the profile was gone. I was embarrassed that I had not been vigilant. It makes my blood run cold as to how vulnerable I have made myself. I felt stupid. During the period in which these alleged incidents took place, Dan Wootton was first an editor at Rupert Murdoch's News of the World before moving to the Daily Mail in 2011. From 2013, he was the editor of The Sun's Bizarre Showbiz column, also a part of Rupert Murdoch's News UK. According to a byline, his alleged victims include one senior News UK executive and at least 6 other staff from The Sun. The byline expose follows the publication of a tweet thread by Wootton's former partner of 4 years, Alex Truby. Truby alleges being stalked by Wootton for a period and says the host hacked his email and social media accounts. But he also posted this allegation. While Dan was in New Zealand visiting his family, I stayed at his flat to cat sit, and one day while doing some laundry, I found a holdall stuffed down the back of the washing machine. It was locked with a padlock, so naturally, I wanted to know what was inside, and I found an external hard drive. On it, I found a video of one of Dan's supposed friends, a Sun employee, having sex with his boyfriend. The video clearly was made in secret and filmed from afar by a hidden camera. In the same folder as the video, I found a transcript of an MSN conversation between the colleague's partner and someone called Martin Branning, whereby an arrangement was indeed made to make the sex tape in secret without his colleague's knowledge in exchange for £500. I knew instantly that Martin Branning was Dan. On Truby's allegation, Byline Times says this: Byline Times has learned that before ending his relationship with Wootton, Mr. Truby confronted him over the contents of the holdall. Mr. Truby said that Wootton made a tearful admission of guilt, acknowledging he was the creator and controller of the pseudonym Martin Browning. Again, very legal language there. Tells us something, I suspect. Byline Times has now handed its dossier of evidence against Wootton to the Metropolitan Police. GB News, where Wootton's show is the highest rated programme, hasn't responded to Byline's request for comment. But a spokesperson for News UK told the paper this: "We have received an email from Byline this afternoon, which we are looking into. We are not able to make any further comment at this stage." The Byline Times report has been 3 years in the making and is just the first part of the paper's special investigation. So we may be seeing even more revelations in the days to come. But Wootton, who hadn't hosted his GB News show for 2 weeks, appeared on screens again on Monday night. This was how his GB News colleague Darren Grimes celebrated the news. The king of evening news telly, at Dan Wootton.
I've met Dan Wootton a number of times. I used to go on his talk radio show every now and again. I went on his GB News show more recently. And I have to say, he is one of the most dangerous demagogic journalists I think this country has. I think he is despicable. The way he speaks, I think he has no real concern about journalistic ethics. He's constantly trying to sort of sow doubt about climate change, sow doubt about the scientific consensus on COVID, and then viciously, over and over and over and over again, choose celebrities such as Meghan Markle to just harangue relentlessly. Right? I think this guy is awful, frankly. I do think it's important to separate my personal opinions about this guy from these allegations. I know there were lots of people during the Hugh Edwards moment who were saying, oh, the left wouldn't be defending Hugh Edwards if he was a GB News host or a Tory party politician. So I think it's very important to separate the allegations from the person. Now, there clearly are some differences here between the allegations made about Dan Wootton and the allegations made against Hugh Edwards. One is this clearly sort of contains allegations of dishonesty. So if you are pretending to be someone else and then asking for naked pictures when you are not in fact that person, that is deception. Now, I'm not sure about the law around this. I'm not sure if this, if fraud is involved. As far as I understand, catfishing itself isn't a crime. It's not just about purchasing naked pictures for money, which I think over the past couple of weeks we've sort of been discussing. You might have a moral objection to it, but it's not necessarily something which we have the right to know about if both parties are engaging consensually in that process. But if deception is involved, that does seem much more problematic. Maybe it's legal, I'm not sure, but it does suggest a level of sort of dishonesty and a level of exploitation. Now, the statement of one of the people involved saying this felt like blackmail is also very interesting. I think Dan Wootton is someone who has been very good at getting scoops. He's made his career out of getting scoops, out of getting information before other people. Now, I know nothing about this story beyond what is in that Byline Times article, but I'll be interested to see what revelations come out over the coming days. Also interesting that no mainstream media outlet has really reported on this other than Byline. I should say very, very impressive that a small independent outlet has broken this story, because they will have got all sorts of legal threats, I am sure. Very, very expensive to do this kind of journalism. So that a crowdfunded website has managed it, I think kudos to them. I'm very interested to see what they come out with next.